Alright, hello once again and welcome to day 2 of our Scratch programming class. One thing I'm not positive of is if I did a good enough job yesterday of going over some of the stuff that's in here. Now I'm not going to jump through everything here, but I did want to show you. If you look, for example, if I say here this move 10 steps, okay, I think we went over this yesterday. I'm going to change it from 10 steps, I'm going to change it to 50 steps. And then I'm just going to click on this. And you notice, in fact, I can probably even put in here 100. Let's put the cat back in position 0, 0. So Scratch here, so he's right where he should be. Okay. Oops. Oh, that wasn't right. All right. So here we have him. What are we doing here? We're at 0, 0. Size is 100 for the direction. There we go. Okay, our cat is back. Now, if I tell him from 0, 0 to move 100 steps, you can see I'm in 0, 0 right here. And if I click on this, boom, he moved to 100, 0. Now that should make sense. All right. So if I tell him to move 100 steps like that, and then I'm going to tell him to, let's see, what do I want here? The idea was I wanted him to basically wait for a couple seconds. All right, but I'll tell you what, I'll do it like this because I can't remember where wait is right now. But I'm going to come over here, and here we said move 100 steps. Now I'm going to change this to move minus 100 steps. And you'll notice that once I go back to point 0, 0, why I keep changing that, I don't know. But now I'm right at the beginning. And if I click here, boom, he went 100 steps. If I click here, he went back 100 steps. So the idea is, what I'm trying to get across to you is, motion is just that. All right? So if I want to go and literally move in different directions, that's what I use the motion for. And there's all sorts of ways that I can do this. I think we looked at this before, but let's take one more look at this backdrop. Let's go down to the very bottom, and let's grab that XY grid backdrop. So you can see right now that I'm at point 0, 0. And if I click here, boom, I'm at point 100, 0. All right? And if I click this again, I'm back at point 0, 0. And if I click this again, now I'm at point negative 100, 0. All right? So I can go up, I can go down, etc. as I'm going to this. And when I do this, I've got my choice. I can jump to any random point on here that I want by using the go to XY. So let's move me back to 0, 0 here. We're pretty close to it. Let's just do it like this. We'll move them back to 0, 0. All right, so there we are. Now, if I want to jump immediately and I want to go to point, I don't know. So what is this? 100, 200. Let's move to 200, 200. In fact, let's move to negative 200, negative 200, which should get me to somewhere around here. And you'll notice from where I am, if I click, boom, you can't even see me now or see the cat. But I am at negative 200, negative 200. All right? Now, I've got my choice when I do that. I can do that, and it's not a problem. I can immediately jump to a point, and let's change it to 100, 100, so he doesn't leave the screen. And again, whoops. When I click on this, you saw that, boom, he just jumped down. Now, sometimes you don't want that kind of an effect. In other words, sometimes when you're doing stuff like that, you want it to be more gradual. So instead of just jumping with a go-to, all right, I can use what's called glide. All right, and I can tell it to glide, and you'll notice, I'll tell you what, I'll glide, and I'll do it nice and slow. I'll do it over 3 seconds, and we'll go to the same point. So negative 100 to negative 100. But notice the difference now when I click. Well, and I guess I didn't put negative 100 there. So I want negative 100, negative 100. Let's try it again. And you can see I'm gradually moving down. So you can see the difference. Now, if I put no time restraint down here, if I say 0 seconds, and I get myself back up to 0.00, so if I'm using 0 seconds, now that's the same thing as doing a go-to. Okay, I just wanted to run through a few of the things that are in here. As we're moving, we've got our choice. You know, you can see, for example, this is a change x by 10, and there's a change y by 10 right here. So let's remove this one, and just let me click. Okay, you'll notice if I keep doing this, I'm changing x by 10 and y by 10, so I'm going up diagonally. And as you'd probably guess, if I made this a negative 10, and I made this a negative 10, now I'm just going to start going backwards diagonally. All right? But what I want to get across to you is we're going to build a maze game in just a couple minutes. And when we do, if the person, you know, or if the animal or whatever it is in a maze, every time we tell it to go negative, a negative x, we're going to be moving horizontally to the left. Whenever we give it a positive value for x, we're going to be moving horizontally to the right. Whenever we give y a negative value, we're going to be moving down. And whenever we give y a positive value, we're going to be moving back up. And I know I've said this before, but I want to say it again. Couple things. First thing is, in most programming language, this is 0.00 right here, not the origin as we see right there. But it is that way in Scratch, okay? So that's one thing to keep in mind as we're going. All right. That's pretty much what I wanted to show you for the X stuff, or the motion stuff. In looks, what's the difference between this and this? Well, let's look at it. So I'm going to click this one, and then I'm going to say 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and you can see it's gone. But when I do this, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So if I want something to persist, I use the say. If I want it to persist for a certain amount of time, I use the say, and I have it go for a few seconds. All right? Say is basically symbolic of speech, whereas think is symbolic of a thought type of an idea. All right? Now, when you look on here, you've got two different costumes right here. And there actually are two different pictures of the cat here. This is the one we've been looking at. Watch how his feet change when I click the other one. Okay, so notice if I kept going back and forth with these, for lack of better words, it's kind of simulating him running. All right, but each one of these things that's in here is known as a costume. So if I want to do work with costumes to be able to switch from one to the other, etc., that's where I can use this. And we'll see this in one of the next programs that we do. All right. The size, I believe we've already talked about, but notice if I start to click this, watch the size of the cat every time I click it. All right. So if I want it to change gradually, let's set it back here. Heck, let's do the set size to 100% there. If I want it to change gradually, I probably won't want to change it by 10% each time. I might want to change it, say, by 2%, where it's a very gradual type of thing. And again, if I wanted to go shrink back again, I put a negative number in there. And I can keep doing this. I can get it under, so it's under 100%. That's not a problem. If I want something to hide on the screen, so if I want to hide that temporarily, I click there. If I want it to show, I click there. Now, it wouldn't make much sense to put these together like this, because it hides it and then it shows it so fast. And that's where waits come in. If I do want to wait for a couple minutes, then it would make more sense to do something like that. All right, sound, we're going to start talking about it today. But notice, play sound. All right, we've got there meow until done. So right now we've got that, we've got meow, and we've got this record. So we could record our own sound if we wanted to. But when we go and we look in here, okay, into sound, there's different things that we can do with this. We can make it go faster, slower, louder, softer, etc. All right? And as you'll see today too, you can even go in and there's other sounds that are in here. So when I go to choose a sound, notice what's all in here. So for instance, one of the things that we're going to do in the maze game is when you get to the end of the maze, we'll do a cheer. All right? And I guess that's all. So when we go there and we want to cheer, where is that? We'll click here. But notice once we click this, all right, you might say nothing happened. Well, it got put here. Why does that matter? Because when we go back again to our code, now notice we've got meow and cheer. So if I click here, okay, so we're going to use that in the next one that we work on. So that's playing the sound. And again, there's different things that you can do. You can play with a pitch, you can play with the volume, and a lot of other stuff. Okay? All right. As we continue on here, you've already seen the when clicked. It's a way of starting off most Scratch programs, but not the only when that's in there that we'll need. For instance, today we'll look at not just when clicked, but when, for example, the space bar is pressed, or we can do anything. What we are going to symbolize in our program is the ability to play a game and to move around. We want to move this guy around by whenever we click the right arrow key, we're going to move to the right. The left arrow key, we're going to move to the left. The up arrow key, we're going to move up. And the down arrow key, we're going to move down. And this is where we can program that. So notice if I say when, let's try this. When the left arrow key is pressed, well, what do I want to do? I'm going to go back up to where I was earlier. And I'm going to say every time the left arrow key is pressed now, move 10 steps. All right, so I'm right here. Okay, and as you're pressing, you'll see this as we get going, because this is how we're going to basically build our maze setup. And it's not, you can basically choose almost anything you want in there. So what else? One thing that we're going to look at today is something that's referred to as a broadcast message. Technically, the way that this stuff works, sprites can't have a direct communication with one another, but one sprite can basically broadcast a message that other sprites can look for. You're going to see that in just a few minutes. All right. Let's see. That's pretty good for there. Then we've got some control stuff over here. There was our weight that I was looking for before. Okay, so again, just to show you this, I'm going to bring that show and hide back again. So I'm going to bring a hide, I'm going to bring a show, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a wait here. And let's, just so we're sure we really see it, let's wait for about 4 seconds. All right? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Boom. So if I want something to fade in and out, to become invisible and get visible again, etc., this is a way that I can do that. All right? Now, in the control over here, I just showed you the wait. What if I wanted to have that keep happening? Okay, in fact, it's going to look a little weird, but let's just do it over 2 seconds. Now I can do this, and notice, there, I put it into a loop now, and I've told this to happen 10 times. And it's looking bad because of it's the interval that I'm using. It's 2 seconds. Let's try it again with 4 seconds and stop it and try it again. But you can see, and this is not a great example with what I'm doing right now because of the repeat loop. All right? But when you hide and show, again, this is a way of doing it. And by using a repeat, there's different ways that you can repeat. Repeat followed by a number means repeat it a certain number of times. All right? Forever loop, which you've seen before, means do it indefinitely. Forever. All right? And it's not that big a thing, but I do want to make sure you have at least heard a couple of concepts here. All right? And that is that when we talk, one of the things that we talk about or I talk about at least, when I teach programming classes, is we talk about structured programming. All right? And really, the hallmarks of this are 3 things: sequence, selection, and iteration, also known as repetition or looping. So why am I telling you this? Because not all of it, but a lot of the code that we were writing yesterday, for example, the Rainbow Art program, was done totally with sequence. With sequence, if you've got 10 things to do, you do number 1, then you do number 2, then you do number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're done. What we started to see yesterday in our game program, all right, what we started to see yesterday in our game program, guessing game, was selection, where we did a guess, and if the guess was less than the random number, we printed one message. Otherwise, if it was greater than the random number, we printed another message. Otherwise, if it was equal to the random number, we printed another message. That's typically the way that you use an if statement. If you've got an if, and if the if isn't true, you don't want to do anything else, that's just a regular if. So again, just to show you this, let me break this down here. All right. right? So just a regular if-then just basically is that. It says, if this is the case, then do something. And if it's not the case, there's nothing special you have to do. On the other hand, if you put an if then else, all right, then if the if is true, you do one thing, and otherwise you do what's with the else. And so what I want you to get out of this is what I call in here. So let's just assume, I'm just going to come in here. It doesn't matter what the code is I put in here, but I'm going to throw in a couple different things. Okay? What goes in here is what's referred to as a Boolean condition. You'll notice that I can't grab one of these things and put it inside of that shape right there. I need something that fits in there. This is called a Boolean condition. So why do you care? Well, notice that if I put in, for example, one of these, how it fits. So this can say, for example, if, I don't know, let's just assume that we've got the program we were working with yesterday. So if random number is greater than 50, then we would do this. And if it's not greater than 50, meaning it's 50 or less, we would do this. So with an if-else, you do one thing or you do the other. On the other hand, if instead of an if-else, if what we had put in here was just a straight if this is true, if that's true there, we would do this. Otherwise, we would skip it. All right, and again, when we talk about looping, iteration, okay, repetition, that is what we mentioned before with this. That's either going to be a forever or a repeat with a certain number. All right, sensing is just that. What we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at, for example, this touching thing. And again, you'll notice it doesn't fit in there. But you'll notice that if we add an if that we just looked at, it still doesn't fit. You see, it's in, no, it's not in there, but it fits there. So in this case, we're going to say if the mouse pointer is touching something, there's not much, like the edge of the screen, okay, we don't want to let the cat, for example, if the cat's in a maze, keep walking because the cat has reached something. We may want it to turn around or do whatever. Okay, we'll even look at color touching in our next program. All right, we've looked at the ask already. You've seen this. Ask what's your name. So watch what happens down here. What's your name? Comes out of the cat, and now it's expecting something. All right. And what it is expecting goes into answer. So for instance, we could change this. We could say, we want to say hello, plus we want to say the person's name. All right. Well, we can't just put that in there like that. But what we can do is we can come down to a condition with a plus, and we can say hello. Oh, it won't work like that. It's going to be a join that I need. So we want to put in here hello, and then the answer, which is what we put in there for name. So let's look. So we grab that answer, and we put it right there. So now notice, what's your name? So if I come in here and I write Jeff Scott, and I hit enter, all right, Hello, Jeff. Okay? All right, a couple more things. These are our operators. This is where we do a lot of the logical type of operations that we're going to do. So these things that you see in here that kind of look like a pair of glasses, if you might even say, they'll typically go, for example, inside of an if statement. These will. So notice I can come in here if something is greater than something, if something is less than something, if something is equal to something. And if you remember, one of the things that we did yesterday was we did an AND condition where we said if this was yesterday, I don't want to put that there. Now we used an OR, and it's good that I put the wrong one in there because I'm going to show you the difference. All right? All right. Now, yesterday, we tried to come in and say random number less than 1. And here we had random number greater than 100. Now, hopefully you understand this, but when you look at it right here, this statement doesn't make any sense. A number cannot be both less than 1 and greater than 100. It doesn't make any sense for a number to be both of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, take it out of there, and I'm going to change it from an AND to an OR. Then I'm going to grab this one and put it there. These are tricky little buggers. Oops. Okay. Sometimes it's easier to actually do this outside and not have it in the control. Okay. All right. So this right here does make sense because a number less than 1 or a number greater than 100. So when you do an AND, both sides of this, both what's to the left of AND and what's to the right of AND, have to be true. So you're being much more restrictive. When you use an OR, either this one is true or this one is true, or they're both true. And if that's the case, you'll do this. All right. There's also something in here that's called a NOT. All right. So what if I wanted to come in here and do something like this? Let's see. What if I wanted to come in here and say if score equal 50, we wanted to do something, whatever that was. All right? Well, if we come in here, we put in a NOT. That means if the score is anything but 50. So it could be 49 or below, 51 or above. Finally, we talked yesterday about including our own variables. All right, so you click right there where it says make a variable. You give it a name. You can say I want this name to apply to every sprite. So in other words, it's more or less making what's referred to as a global variable where every part of the program can use it. All right, or you can make it only available for that sprite, which is more a local type of thing. Once you create a variable, you can set its value, you can change its value, you can show its value, or you can hide its value. All right? And the last thing that we looked at yesterday was we went into the my blocks. All right? And we made our own block. Now, I'm at 30 minutes, and that's where I want to stop, but I'm not trying to waste your time here. What I am trying to tell you and what I am trying to show you by what I just did right there is to go over in a little bit more depth and breadth of coverage some of this material that was in here. So when I come back in just a couple minutes, we're going to start building. First, we're going to talk just for a couple minutes and look at a couple more things. And after we do, then we're going to start building our maze. All right, see you then.